That's all he was.
Jordan never called him that.
Good morning and welcome to the Sports Debate Podcast. I am your host, BA. I'm with Jack Hirsch and James J. Trey Martin. Hope you fellas are doing good this morning. It is cold here. I don't know what it's like for you guys. Well, I know, Jack, you ain't cold.
It's cold. Yesterday, I did the show indoors. I mean, it was going to be a high of like 65 degrees. I couldn't keep the sliding doors open here, you know.
High of 65, Jack.
High of 65.
Well, the morning, it was in the mid-40s in the morning, so it was freezing.
Hey, Jack, it's 32 and it's snowing again here.
Hey, no sympathy. If you consider what the Bears and Rams are going to have to go through tomorrow night, come on, no sympathy.
No, they're all right. They'll be all right. They're grown men. They play football. That's what it's about. All right, so on our debate today, we have 3 questions, probably more. It depends. First question today we'll get to: who had the most successful run with their franchise, Mike Tomlin with the Steelers or John Harbaugh with the Rams?
Yeah, you have to assign someone to go first. I mean, I can jump the gun, but then you're going to call out. James is going to say I'm offside. If he feels he can't keep up with me, he's going to want a flag thrown to give him an advantage.
Let's go with age. Let's go with age before not so age. Please.
I'll go first. I'll say Mike Tomlin, I feel, had the more successful run. I also think Mike Tomlin had it a little bit harder. I mean, I talk about racial inequality when it exists. I hate when people play the race card when it doesn't exist. I despise that. They lose me completely when they play the race card when it's not justified. But in the case of Mike Tomlin, being a black coach has to enter into it. He was a bit of a pioneer, and the success that he had, I mean, it would be a standard for anyone, the success he had. I mean, 19 years, and he could have had a 20th year, and it's a shame he found himself under the same pressure that Don Shula ultimately did. Don Shula would deliver winning teams for the Dolphins year after year, but he wasn't getting to the Super Bowl. The fans were getting tired of getting knocked out in the playoffs. And the Steelers fans were getting tired of being knocked out of the playoffs. But this is a guy, Mike Tomlin. He had double-digit wins his last 3 years in a row. He went 19 seasons without a losing record. I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He did win a Super Bowl, and you win a Super Bowl, it should last your lifetime. It better. I mean, I can tell you from experience when the Jets won one. I mean, that might be the only one in my lifetime. And, you know, if I was lucky enough to live 2 lifetimes, I might not even get a second one with the Jets the way it's looking now. But Mike Tomlin would always have his team in the mix, always have his team in the mix, always find a way to win. He was criticized for not having, you know, a quarterback after Ben Roethlisberger. But guess what? He still managed to win with the cast, the characters, the quarterback that he did. Not to demean Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers clearly is not the player he was. I don't want to say way over the hill, but it's not the same Aaron Rodgers by far. But Tomlin still found a way to get it done. Okay, he still found a way to get it done, and he had the respect of the players. John Harbaugh basically had to leave the Ravens in part, despite what they say, in part because there was some dissension. Lamar Jackson didn't talk out on his behalf. Derrick Henry didn't talk out on his behalf. I'm not saying they wanted him to get fired, but they weren't heartbroken. And we hear the reports that went on in the Steeler locker room. TJ Watt was inconsolable when Tomlin said he was going to leave. That's the only coach he's ever had in the NFL in his 9 years there. Aaron Rodgers reportedly was sobbing and kept apologizing, wishing they had taken it further in the playoffs so Mike Tomlin would stay. And the decision was Mike Tomlin's at the end. It was Mike Tomlin's decision to leave. But let's be honest about it. Public pressure plays a role. You hear the outside noise, you get tired of it after a while, even though you're not fired. And the Steelers would have stuck with him an extra year, according to Rooney. That remark is revealing in itself. Extra year? Mike Tomlin shouldn't have been on any timeline. I mean, same with John Harbaugh, in all fairness. So with John Harbaugh, in a way, maybe it had run its course because maybe he'd lost the locker room to an extent. Mike Tomlin never lost the locker room. The players still would run through a wall for him. And to sum it up, last game of the season, division title on the line. Coach against coach. Mike Tomlin defeated John Harbaugh. Big game to win the division title.
You exaggerate on that last part. I was with you the whole time until you mentioned that last game. You could have kept that one because you know how it ended. You know the kicker missed a field goal. But with that said, they didn't go out there and bask in the thrill of victory because they were on their knees in prayer, hoping that the kick wouldn't go through the uprights. So, but with that said, I mean, I give all the credit in the world to Mike Tomlin. I think he's one of the greatest coaches in that history. Of the Steeler Nation, and probably one of the great coaches in the history of the game, and will at some point be a Hall of Fame coach. Both these coaches were. This is a really tough question. It's a great question that you presented us today, Jack. And I just think that both coaches, they have an eerily similar pathway, if you look, so to speak. I mentioned this last night. I talked about several coaches that are probably in this same breath of these two coaches, that their peers. Sean Payton, very similar record. Mike McCarthy, very similar record. All these guys have won Super Bowl, although Mike Tomlin went to two. They just didn't win the second one. I think that this is a situation where you look at Mike Tomlin. Yeah, I agree with you, man. All the winning, having the all-time, I guess, as being a pioneer, having winning seasons, not having a losing season. But at some point, yes, there is pressure. You got to get back to the Super Bowl. You got to get back there. Even the greats. Sean Payton had to leave New Orleans at some point. You look at John Harbaugh had to leave. Even Jim Harbaugh, when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, at some point, if you're not winning the big game, unfortunately, the pressure is going to be on you, and you either get fired or you step away. And most of those guys step away. I think that John Harbaugh, what would probably give him a little bit of an edge is his postseason play. If you look at the postseason for him, he was 8. I think Mike Tomlin was 8-12, so he was a 400 percentage guy, and 13-11 was John Harbaugh. So they both had really good quarterbacks. I think Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh was a bit of a disappointment for not getting to the Super Bowl. They got close, but it didn't happen. And not having a good defense probably hurt them in that situation. And like you said, not having a good quarterback after Ben Roethlisberger probably hurt Mike Tomlin. At least you got to have somebody decent, or something has to be great. You have to either have a great defense and somebody that can take care of the ball and a good running game, or you have to have a guy that can elevate everybody around him. And it's typically somebody like Ben Roethlisberger, Lamar Jackson, even again, I put I'm gonna put I'm gonna give him just a slight edge, John Harbaugh, because when they won that Super Bowl in 2013 with uh, Joe
Joe
Flacco,
Flacco.
Joe Flacco, he went on a run. Joe Flacco's not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback, and he has his moments when he's good. But he went on a good run, just like Eli Manning. You have a really good defense, and you have a quarterback that can go on a decent run. They struck lightning right there, and so I think. But to me, that's a good sign of head coaching. I mean, this guy was a special teams coach. He wasn't an offensive guy. He wasn't a defensive guy. He was a special teams coach, and he ended up being a head coach. So to me, it shows that this is a guy that can take balance of all the aspects of the team and be a really good leader. So I'm just going to give him a slight edge because I'm again, it's just really you. Like I said, you presented a great question. I could have flipped the coin and picked one of these guys, but they both have really good careers, and I hope they continue. I hope Mike Tomlin continues when he takes a break, comes back to football because football is going to be a little bit different without a guy like him in it. But I'm
And
going
when
to definitely.
I don't understand other segments of the media. We talk about the Rooney Rule, okay? We talk about the lack of black head coaches. Now you got one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, and the media parts of it are ready to move on from him. The same that are arguing the other way for the Rooney Rule, they're okay with Mike Tomlin exiting. It makes no sense. I mean, this is one of the great coaches in NFL history. He's had one of the great regular season runs in NFL history, and they're okay moving on from Mike Tomlin. It becomes public pressure, public perception. I think ownership gets tired of just the baggage of hearing, oh, we got to move on, we got to move on, we got to move on. And they throw in the towel. That's what I think happens. And it happened in the case of Mike Tomlin, but he beat him to it. Mike Tomlin was tired of hearing all this, noise. He didn't need it. So he decided to resign. And like I said before, just the idea that the Steelers said they were willing to give him another season, that's putting him on the clock. And we talk about lame ducks with contracts. Isn't that being a lame duck? Come on. I mean, I don't believe in lame duck status. If you have a contract, you have a contract. But in the case of a Mike Tomlin, if you say we'll try it for one more, we would have tried it for one more year. I'm out of there. I'm out of there. Because even if I stumble and I go 7-10 the following year, I still feel I'm entitled to have the position based on merit.
Well, you're making the assumption that they were trying to force him out. I think, he did do that on his own accord. I think people saw this coming for a couple of years, actually, because of his whole family situation. And it's, he when you coach for a long period of time like that, both coaches, I see, John's going to the Giants. So it's, obviously he hasn't lost his luster for it. But that's a long time to be in a career, especially in that. You got to remember what you put your family through during head coaching, and you got to be in that office 23 out of 24 hours of the day, during football season. And even if it's not football season, you're still in office for some of that time because, you have other things that are going through in the off season. So, it kind of wears on some human beings. And you got to remember something too, Jack, this is a business. If you're not doing it, both these coaches actually won their Super Bowls early in their careers with their teams. Mike 2 years into his and John 4 years into his. So, I don't know what you want. You want people. Mike Tomlin has won every season he's coached the Pittsburgh Steelers, but yet they only have one Super Bowl. They've been in playoff games which they haven't been successful in, as James alluded to. But it gets tired. People want, if you're in that organization that wants to win now, that's the thing that's going on in this century. Win now. And that's just the gist of it. So you're going to see a lot of the older coaches. Andy Reid will be next. You'll see a lot of these old coaches be, out of the league pretty soon because these teams need to win now.
Yeah, but Brian, there are 32 teams in the NFL. They all have the same mission statement to win it all a Super Bowl. They're all putting in all their resources to get to a Super Bowl to win it. So the odds of winning a Super Bowl statistically are 1 out of 32. I mean, you're winning it once every 32 years statistically. Obviously, some teams do a lot better than that, and some teams never win it. And some teams never get there, like your Detroit Lions haven't been to a Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns haven't been. My Jets got to 1 in the Super Bowl 3 and won it, but haven't been back in over 50 years. James' Saints won 1. It's hard. It's hard for all the Kansas City Chiefs type teams and New England Patriots who go on these runs, for over a couple of decades, the Patriots and the Chiefs, basically a decade. Statistically, it's very, very difficult. That's why when fans argue, well, they haven't won the ring, they haven't won it all. I mean, it's so hard. As long as you're in the mix and you have a legitimate chance of winning it, I think that's good. The fan base should be happy that they're in the mix. Obviously, you want to get over the top, but to fire coaches who are in the mix year after year, I don't like that.
And you also got to understand something too. The NFL is a cash cow for some of these owners. And, if you have an owner that is really persistent in trying to get their team to the top of the mountain, like Kraft, like the who are the owners of the Kansas City Chiefs? Jack?
The Hunts.
The Hunts. There you go. Owners like that, and they're persistent enough, and they have hands-on with their team, are usually the ones that get those Super Bowl rings back to back and are in Super Bowl appearances and are playoff team threats every year. A lot of these owners are kind of simply lazy. They're just getting their money from what their team is producing. They're acting like they're going to do some things, and then on top of that, with the fans, social media, all that stuff, man, that takes a toll too. And it's now a part where these coaches are gonna, they're getting hired and fired by what the fans want on social media.
Yeah,
so it's ridiculous. And you got to give it to both these coaches though. They both were great in their own regard. I can't even say which one is better than the other one because Mike Tomlin's got those.
It's a virtual tie in reality.
Reality.
Let me ask you guys a question in regard to Mike Tomlin. Everyone's assuming he wants to take the year off. We haven't heard anything from Mike Tomlin. There's 7 job openings. What if Mike Tomlin came to you and said, let me put it another way. What would be the best situation for Mike Tomlin if he wanted one of the 7 jobs? Which job would he function in the best, do you think?
Well, I think ideally what's left right now, the situation would have to, I would say Atlanta. I mean, it's just way too much talent there. He already went into a good situation when he got to Pittsburgh. And you I think you just have to, shore up that quarterback position, but everybody else, man, you just got to shore up that quarterback position. But everybody, he would definitely get that team in line and get them in order. I think they just need a little bit more discipline at the head coach position, and they need some. They need to make sure they have a good quarterback because everything else is in place.
He can function without a good quarterback. Keep that in mind. So you look at Penix and Cousins and say, I can make do with these guys. Yeah.
Yeah,
and he's a motivator as well.
Yeah.
And on top of that fact, too, you want him to come to you. That's the other thing. Not go out there and try to, persistently get on his nerves about getting a coaching position like some of these people are trying to do right now. Oh, we'll do the trade. Yeah, we can do that. Come on, Mike, come back. Mike ain't doing that. That's the reason why he's taking a year off. Get away from me.
Before Tomlin stepped down, you'd see in the news, well, they could always trade him, that they could trade a coach. I never heard of a coach getting traded Can you imagine a coach like Mike Tomlin going into the Rooney office and you were traded to the Las Vegas Raiders to be their head coach?
Oh, he quit.
Oh, exactly. He stepped down, I think.
He quit.
Yeah, maybe not to the Dolphins. He might like the climate and might think, oh, okay, what the heck.
But that, I mean, I know we got to go on to the next question, but
Yeah.
I would say if something like that happened, some hypothetical were to happen like that, I myself would lose a lot of respect for the Steelers organization because they've never done it. That's never been their MO. It's never been their MO. And then to do that with the black guy, and you created a rooting rule, I would think that would be disingenuous of the league itself and the Steelers and how they handle things.
Now that was just talk. I can't imagine any.
No, I agree with you. Right.
It doesn't make
sense. Right. And they're too shrewd for that. I think they're too shrewd to do anything like that. Obviously, it's clearly they had discussions in the back office, talking to Mike Tomlin about what to do and how to handle the situation. That's fine. I would think I give more respect to you for doing that. But you clearly, as you alluded to, there's probably more pressure than there should have been for him to leave as to how they've handled things in the past. It probably shouldn't have been, but they haven't won.
I know we got to move on to the next question, but it's pretty sad that a guy is forced out to feel pressure to quit, who has double-digit victories and he wins his division with double-digit victories, and they want him out, the fan base. What could I say?
Yeah, but in retrospect, both the coaches, it's a tie. In reality, they're really good coaches.
Yeah,
I wish John Harbaugh the best in New York. He's going to need it. Anyway, next question. Should LeBron James be held accountable for Rich Paul's remarks about Austin Reeves? And before I ask somebody to respond to that, let me tell you what he responded to first, so you can put this in retrospect. I think you all know by now Rich is his own man, and what Rich says is not a direct reflection of me and how I feel. And I hope people know that. I hope people know that if they're not sensible to know that I don't know what to tell them. He further engaged in this conversation to talk about Austin Reeves. He knows how I feel about him. All you have to do is go look at us on the bench. Me and AR talk every single game. So AR knows how I feel about him, and I hope AR or his camp don't look at me and think this is words are coming from me. They're coming from Rich. Rich has his perspective, what he sees. I have my perspective. I'm a grown man. He's a grown man. And I think people should realize that grown man can say whatever the F they want to say, and it shouldn't reflect somebody else saying it. So that was LeBron's take on that whole situation. James, what do you think about that? Because LeBron is your guy.
He is my guy, man.
I thought Isaiah was this guy. I'm a little confused.
Oh, I love Isaiah too, man. Come on.
My apologies.
Isaiah's I'm one of my guys too, man. I'm a huge fan. I like the little guy out there that's like the little engine that went out and showed some great things. David and Goliath and Jack and the Beanstalk. I've always liked the underdog and the smaller guy. But with that said, LeBron James, I watched him coming out of high school, out of St. Mary's, and making his first 25 points in the league. And I was a fan ever since then. That being said, I think there's some disingenuous communication going on here with LeBron James, obviously having to save face with that communication that he put out there. I'm not saying that he directly had anything to do with what Rich Paul said in his podcast with Max Kellerman. I'm saying that these guys are jointed at the hip. They've been friends for a long time. They are business partners. They have over a $2 billion company. There has to be some shrewd communication about things and how you do things. And I'm not just saying that, that he just threw that out there carelessly, because he's a smart guy. You're not going to just throw words out carelessly. There's always some sort of calculation. And I think that he put that out there on a podcast just to put it out there so it can start communication. But it goes in the back of our minds, into our psyche, all of us, whether it be other teams out there looking, which you can say this might be tampering, or some sort of thing, putting it out there that like, hey, maybe the Lakers should try to do this, and maybe the Lakers and LeBron James are having some sort of communication about what they can do, because this is possibly LeBron James's last year, and he wants to go out close to top or on top. And Austin Reeves is a commodity right now. He's averaging 26 points a game. When LeBron was out, when Luka was out, he scored 51 points in one game. He scored 45 points in another. And they were thriving with him. This is the best that we've seen Austin Reeves play. Mind you, he's not a defensive player. At this juncture in LeBron James' career, he's not really good at defense. Luka is not a great defensive player. What they're possibly trying to think, and what he alluded to in Rich Paul in saying that maybe you get a Jared Jackson. That's a defender. That's somebody that can play offense and defense. They need a big. He's a big. And they need somebody in there that can actually play defense and help them out. And LeBron will get more touches, which I've heard other like Stephen A. Smith and some other people say that would actually give LeBron James more touches in the game. And that'll give them, because he's starting to, I think they won last night or the night before last when he had a near triple double with 31 points. If you don't trade Austin Reeves right now, it's over. They're not going to beat the Nuggets. They're not going to beat Houston. They're not going to beat San Antonio, whoever it is. That the Lakers are a slightly above mid-tier team with the way they're constructed right now. So for Rich Paul to say what he said, yes, LeBron James may not have had anything to say with that, but Rich Paul is LeBron's guy. And whether directly or indirectly, he may have had something to do with that. I mean, he had something to do with it because it's just who he's attached to. So yes, I'm going to fault LeBron James because this is not a first. LeBron James has been in the media. He's been in tweets. He's had passive aggressive tweets about things when things weren't going right. He puts it out there passive aggressively, and he might be his guy. But LeBron is always 10 moves ahead of everybody. He's got a very smart, high basketball IQ, and he's got a very high acumen about business as well, because he wouldn't be where he's at if that was the case in regards to business and what he's doing outside of basketball. So yes, again, as much as I love LeBron James, I think you should blame him for this situation, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, I mean, what's LeBron really supposed to do? Rich Paul has a conflict of interest in the sense he represents LeBron and he's doing this podcast. But when he does the podcast, he's supposed to talk openly on things. He wasn't telling us anything we wouldn't think about. If the Lakers are going to win the championship, they probably need to make a bold move. And the conflict of interest is he's not going to say trade LeBron, move on from LeBron on his podcast because he's his agent. That's understandable. He's certainly not going to say, let's trade Luka in a blockbuster deal. That would be insanity. You said it best. The biggest commodity is Austin Reeves. He's available. Rich Paul proposed a specific trade, but he was doing it in his role as a podcaster. I think people should have taken exception with Rich Paul when he took the position as a podcaster. Look, James, you're fine. I'm sure you're fond of me to a degree, and Brian as well, to a large degree, and we're fond of you the same way. But if you're thinking ratings, you want to get the highest ratings, and you could get Max Kellerman here in the deal for Jack Hirsch, you would make that deal. And if Brian's on a podcast and that comes up, Brian would say, I think that would be a good deal for the show. I mean, he would. How do you hide from it? That's just the way it is, and I acknowledge that, from my end. And look, I think Rich Paul came up with the remarks spontaneously. Everyone's thinking him and LeBron plotted it. They're trying this, trying that. I'm sure they've talked about ways to improve the Lakers, him and Rich Paul. They're friends. They talk about the team, okay? And Rich Paul, on the spur of the moment, just said something that might make sense. Personally, I don't care for the deal. I'm going to tell you myself, because I think Austin Reeves is maybe coming into his own as a possible star in this league, and his value is just going to come up. I think he has more upside. So personally, I think it might be just a good short-term fix for the Lakers for the time being if they made the deal. But long term, I think they should invest in Austin Reeves. But that's a matter of opinion. I could be wrong. I could be
I agree
completely
with you.
wrong on what
I
I'm
agree with
saying.
you.
Austin Reeves might just be having a nice spurt now, and he might level out, as well. It all remains to be seen. But what is LeBron supposed to do? Fire Rich Paul? I mean, say, make him apologize to Austin Reeves. I mean, LeBron has enough of a relationship with Austin Reeves where he feels he could talk to him on the side saying, look, I wish he hadn't made that remark. I regret him making it. You know what I mean? It's got nothing to do with me. I spoke to him after and said, you shouldn't have said that. That's out of place. And LeBron's maybe saying to Austin Reeves, and I don't believe in that. I don't want you traded, and so on. I mean, we don't know what went on behind the scenes with LeBron. We're assuming he manipulated this whole thing with Rich Paul, and there's no evidence of such.
Jack, I'm gonna tell you, in the words of the immortal Nino Brown from New Jack City, when he said to Scotty in the drug deal, friends is personal, but this is business. I think this is a business decision. It has nothing to do with the personal friendship. LeBron can say what he want to say. I mean, I've learned who he is, and I understand what human nature is. And I mean, if you're someone trying to succeed and win, you are going to do anything and willing and necessary to try to capitalize and be, especially if you're at the point where you're almost at the tail end. And the evidence has just shown itself over time with LeBron James. And so if there's one thing that I have to kind of knock him for, it would be that. And I mean, just looks no different. And again, like you said, was it tongue in cheek? It's just something that just came out. I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. And like you said, did he and LeBron James talk about this? Of course they did. I mean, they're going to talk about things. LeBron is always talking about something and how to move ahead. Like I said, he plays chess. He doesn't play checkers.
Well, so you're saying LeBron knew exactly what Rich Paul was going to say. They went over it. And then if LeBron's denying it, then LeBron's a flat out liar, if that's the case.
I'm not saying he knew he was going to say it on the podcast. I'm just saying LeBron shouldn't act surprised by the communication of what he said. I mean, it probably came out, like you said, it came out just spontaneously on the show. But I mean, it's hard for me, just as we talk about the business of basketball and football organizations, it's hard for me to just say that things aren't strategically put in place to make sure that business goes well. That's just how business is ran. People not going to just take chances. I mean, and just go fly by willy-nilly with things. A podcast for a person like Rich Paul is supposed to be a part of a business. It's not just something to just sit down and hang with friends. Max Kellerman is a very bright guy. He didn't just sit down with anybody. He put on the show somebody that he can talk to and get a sports acumen, about many different things in sports and probably life as well. It was a great idea for them two to sit down together and have a podcast. And I just think that this is no different. He didn't just throw that out there like as a something that just popped off the top of his head. It was calculated. It was totally calculated. But whether LeBron James, I don't think he may have told LeBron James that he was going to say it on the show. I think that's the part where I believe LeBron James didn't know Rich Paul was going to say that. But whether or not they discussed it or not, I totally disagree with that. I think he did discuss that with including whoever or himself. LeBron removing himself from the Lakers. That's his agent. So he's talking about any and everything to him.
Well, I look at it like this. Who's the GM of the Lakers? Is it LeBron? I mean, they have to make the ultimate decision in the end for business, whether it's suggested or not on a podcast or, Paul and LeBron got together and, they were talking about what they should do to shift the team into a better situation. Regardless of that fact, I think LeBron is strong to the point that he's his own man, and LeBron's his own man. He's going to do what he's going to do. And if people don't like it, well, that's just, if they don't believe what LeBron says, well, that's take it and run with it, whatever the case may be. I don't think there was any malice toward Austin Reeves in this conversation. I don't think there was any malice toward him. I think Austin Reeves has already proved that, he's a good player. According to the players on the team, defense needs to be a premium, but is anybody really a great defensive player in the NBA? I mean, a real good one. I mean, one consistent one. So, I mean, the defense has gone from the NBA pretty much anyway. But
I don't know. Houston and San Antonio have really good defense. And yeah, I mean they're not. I mean they play really really good defense. We'll see how it turns out in the end. But yeah, I mean to say, I agree to some degree with what you're saying, that the rules have changed to where people don't play a lot of defense. But I think Houston and OKC plays really good defense as well. And so I mean that's part of what got them to their championship. Besides being able to to play great team ball. But I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna leave it alone. LeBron James, I'm gonna hold him culpable only because of his past experience. I'm not saying that he told Rich Paul to go on the show and say that, or that he knew Rich Paul was gonna go on and say that on his show, but because of his relationship with him. And to mention what you're saying, that I agree with what you're saying about the GM ultimately making the decision, but at the same time, this can cause dissension amongst a team. LeBron James got to go and talk to his damage control for sure. That's why he came out and said it.
To Austin Reeves, and we have no idea how Austin Reeves feels about it, but Austin Reeves' agent had a discussion with Rich Paul about it, and it couldn't have been the most pleasant discussion. And Austin Reeves might be a happy-go-lucky guy, and it might just roll off. We don't know, and maybe it sticks to him in any event. But it's not a good look, and you got to feel also that Rich Paul is a little too savvy not to have realized that. He seems to be a very highly intelligent individual, very successful individual. And he didn't get that way by luck, okay? I mean, handling LeBron's business affairs. And obviously, LeBron had to have talked with him about the state of the team. Whether he ever specifically talked to him about Austin Reeves, in a trade or this or that, I mean, we don't know for sure. But, they've obviously had to, at the very least, talked about the state of the team. And it's, I guess it's what is. I mean, I would like to see sometimes players be more natural. Wouldn't this be a little cooler if Austin Reeves just let it be known he's mad at LeBron and said, get away from me for now. I don't feel like talking to you for now. I have you back on the court. I'm 100% behind you as a teammate, but I don't want to hear about any of this bull, you not knowing this or that. And humble LeBron. Make him come out and say, look, my agent better apologize. I'm apologizing. It was totally out of line. Austin's a great player. If they're going to have to trade anyone to improve their defense, they should trade me sooner than him. Humble him to a degree. But LeBron I'll agree, kind of is escaping this, in a way like, people are making too big a deal out of it. He's going on the attack, LeBron, when he really should be on the defensive.
Yeah, it's funny too, because can you imagine the conversation after that podcast? They'd be like, dude, why did you go on a podcast and be talking about our business like when we were talking? Now I got to go in here and tell Austin Reeves, hey, dude, it ain't about you. He can say what he want to say. He's got to do damage control. And that's a good point, James, that you made about dissension in the locker room because of that. So James he had to go in and do it.
Great point. Yeah, I'm trying to cut in. James makes a great point. Now we should question LeBron whether he and Rich Paul have had discussions in private about Austin Reeves being traded. He opened up a bigger can of worms now. LeBron wants to go on the offensive. I would push back against him. Has it come up in conversation? And if I'm Austin Reeves, I'll say, have you and your agent talked about me getting traded to improve the defense on this team? And you want to know something? At this point in time, guys, it's possible Rob Pelinka, the GM, and even JJ Redick, who's close to LeBron James personally, could think Austin Reeves has more of a future as a Laker than LeBron. LeBron might not quite have the power that he once had. LeBron in his prime had all that power. We talked about it with Jordan, the power he had with the Dream Team, and this and that. LeBron, I don't think, has that power quite to the same extent anymore.
Yeah, I just think that I think it might have been discussed about trading somebody for a defensive player. I don't know if Austin Reeves' name came up like that, but maybe the conversation went, hey, we need some defensive people on this team, so maybe, we can get a playoff run in here. But no names were mentioned. But then, and with Rich Paul, his thinking and his intelligence about the situation, he'd be like, you know what? I think if we got rid of Austin Reeves or traded for Austin Reeves, we can get our defensive player. And he just said that on his podcast. Now, that might have came to a shot. They might have had conversations about that between him and LeBron beforehand, but there was no name put to the trade. And LeBron might be like, dude, don't make that.
This is why I think that LeBron is culpable, because in the eyes of Rich Paul, Austin Reeves is the most valuable expendable asset. Mm-hmm. But in the eyes of the Lakers, I guarantee you LeBron James is the most valuable expendable asset. And so this is where I blame LeBron James, because the Lakers, the view point is totally different. It's coming from LeBron James and his agent. You're not trading me unless I want to leave. I mean, so who else is expendable? It's not Luka, because this is Luka's team now. So the most valuable person right now that you can look at and say that we can get rid of and get something great for him is probably going to be Austin Reeves right now. But through the Lakers' eyes, they're like, okay, LeBron James is on his way out. And so some team that might want LeBron James on it, some playoff team or some big name team that we can get a haul for would be LeBron James. And so that's and to me, this like you said, there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that definitely that LeBron James should be held accountable for this, because he and Rich Paul, without a doubt, talked about.
So basically, what he's doing, he's throwing Austin Reeves under the bus, so he don't have to be traded or something like that. Because ultimately, it's the GM's ownership's ability to do that, not Rich Paul. So whatever suggestions could be put out there to try to save LeBron's behind to stay on the Lakers instead of being traded for somebody else himself.
Correct.
My last thing I'm going to say, and I'm not going to say another word on the topic to move on. Where's Isaiah Thomas when you need him? This situation is right up his alley.
Oh, Isaiah. Anyway. All right. So on to our next question here. Do you have a problem with the amount of money the Dodgers are spending to sign free agents? Jack, go ahead.
I would be a complete hypocrite if I said I did. When George Steinbrenner used to sign all these free agents, people used to complain. They wanted laws. They wanted this. They wanted that. No. I mean, Max Kellerman said it best. If you have more fans, you should be able to spend more. You have a bigger fan base. The Dodgers have a gigantic fan base. They have the money. Other owners have the money. Steve Cohen, the Met owner, who just signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year deal, he has the money. He could have gone overboard. Certain owners can afford to lose a couple of $1 billion. They shouldn't. They're businessmen, but they can overwhelm the competition and pay this crazy, insane money if they want. I mean, it's a business. The Dodgers are outbidding the other teams, and the other teams have a chance to hold on to their players by offering them a good long-term deal long before they hit free agency. They wait for the player to hit free agency and become 1 year away from free agency, and then they offer the money. You know that with Scobo, the great Tiger pitcher. The Tigers could have signed him basically to a career deal. That they had a vision when he started to really become good. They could have worked out a contract. He would have signed it at that point. He wouldn't have been close to free agency. And teams are doing it with players. Don't get me wrong. A lot of teams are doing it with good young players. Look, the Atlanta Braves signed Ronald Acuna to a 10-year deal, at good money, only $10 million a year long ago. The San Diego Padres signed Fernando Tatis to like a 13-year deal, about $24 million a year. They weren't waiting for him to become a $40 million a year player. The Yankees, it's a bargain now, the Aaron Judge deal for $40 million a year. There's 6 years left on that deal. But when he signed the deal, before he signed the deal, we had people who came on this show who were saying they should trade Aaron Judge if he doesn't take the $30 million a year the Yankees were offering him, which which thankfully he didn't take. It wouldn't have been a wise deal for him to take, and history's proven that correct. But yeah, you have a chance, these smaller market teams, to sign guys early on, but they lack the guts to do it. They keep wanting to see how good the guy is. And when the player becomes really, really elite, it's obvious. By that time, he's only 1 or 2 years away from free agency. It becomes much harder to sign him. And again, I'm sure you have an opinion with the Tigers, losing the best. They're going to lose the best pitcher in baseball, who they should have held on to. Fine, let the Dodgers keep signing the guys to these big deals, but eventually it does catch up to you, and the players start declining under these deals and not performing, and you're losing a ton of money and eventually not winning. But in the case of the Dodgers, it's okay. They've won 2 World Series in a row. They've won, no matter what, they come out ahead, because when you're World Series winner, you come out ahead no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people, I've heard people say that it's not fair that teams are able to do this and buy themselves a championship. Look, I sort of agree with you to an extent, that if you got the money and you can spend it, why not? Go ahead and spend it and get yourself a championship if you can. Look at LSU. They put extra money into Lane Kiffin, and now, if you guys hadn't heard, that transfer portal, Lane Kiffin LSU's got the #1 transfer portal right now because of all the players that he's picking up, and it's through NIL and the revenue share deals that he's got. He's shrewd and how he's accumulating the players as well. So kudos to them. So I'm not mad at him, but to say that it isn't fair, do I not have a problem? I could say I wouldn't have a problem, but I can see why many people would have a problem with it, because when you look at the evidence, let's go back to 1995 to now. Half the teams that are in the top 5 of the payrolls are the ones that were winners of the World Series. Nearly half the teams. And then you can go on and say, from 2014, I've looked these stats up, from 2014 to 2024, 9 of 10 teams were in the top 5 of the payroll, and 6 of those teams were above the luxury tax threshold, and these were all winners. I'm just saying that all the numbers that I'm mentioning, these are all World Series winners. So it might be getting a little bit out of hand now, to the extent to where everybody's winning. Let's go back, but it's not always a given for success. Let's go all the way back to the 90s. The Braves. The Braves were in the top 5 of the payroll. They were in the top 5 in their numbers, but they went to 5 World Series and only won 1 in 1995. They won 91, 92, 95, 96, and 1999 against your New York Yankees, Jack. And going back to that, 1998, 99, 2000, they were the highest paid in the New York Yankees. And so many people, I can see like let's go to a team like the Brewers. You can say that you can have success without having a high dollar team. The Brewers last year were 19th or 18th or 19th in payroll, and yet they were almost there. They just were, like he said, they blow it in the playoffs. So, and I'm not going to say that the team's not good. The team's very good. It's just young. Maybe they had inexperience in the playoffs, and maybe they just choke. I don't know what the situation is, but they were ranging from 118 to about 130 somewhat million on their payroll. So there is opportunity to have success, but statistics show that the teams that pay a lot of more money are going to have a lot higher success in being a winner of the World Series. So I kind of go with, in a situation I feel, or I can empathize with teams or smaller markets that can't afford to pay that kind of money. That, hey man, this isn't fair at all. But I kind of have to go with you a little bit in the sense that if you got it, don't hate the player, hate the game. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Anything to that, Jay?
One more thing. Toronto was in the top 5 as well last year when they played Los Angeles. So you had two teams that are playing each other. They were in the top 5 of the high payroll. So that's something to be said as well.
Well, no, I mean, usually better players you got to pay more money to. Sometimes they're with an organization their whole career and they're really good, and you have to pay them. Doesn't mean you're going out, you're signing a bunch of free agents. I mean, the Angels were big losers when they had Ohtani and Mike Trout. They addressed the Mike Trout situation when he was at the top of his game, when he was a superstar. They signed him to what, a 10, 12-year deal, $35 million a year. They made him the highest paid player in the year, basically made him a career Angel for the most part early on. Had they waited for him to hit free agency, chances are they would have lost him. They got way ahead of the curve. You could do that with virtually any player. Very few players aren't going to sign if they're 3-4 years away from free agency. Very few. I mean, you make the deal with them early on. But teams have to have the courage to do it. They're scared if they give them the money and they don't perform, they're going to have a miserable contract that they're going to have to live with. It's a risk. And the teams that usually the winning teams, championship teams, take risks. And Dodgers have taken a lot of risks, and it's been paying off. And we'll see with this Kyle Tucker thing whether it pays off for him as well. It probably will pay off for him because he's a heck of a good player. He'll perform well for the Dodgers. Whether he's worth all that money, that's questionable. But they have it.
Yeah, I think I don't have a problem with the amount of money Dodgers are spending. I don't have that problem at all with any team that wants to do that. If you're trying to win, what's the problem? You're trying to win. If the other people are soaking up the money to get the winners, then like the Tigers were 16th last year in salary, and they still made the playoffs. But now you're talking. The problem with the Tigers is they're cheap bastards. They're cheap. And Tarek Skubal is 29 years old, and they're holding that age against him, that ageism, basically, because he's 29, and he's won back-to-back Cy Young awards. I said, dude, if the guy is hot right now as a pitcher, you keep him there. He's a guy that's a generational talent, and he can be a franchise person. You sign him. Like Jack says, you sign him immediately because that's something you can't let go. That guy's gotten us in the playoffs. Arbitration is going to suck for him because it's going to draw a line between him and the Tigers, and I don't think he's going to want to see that line. He's going to want to walk because of that. And the Tigers are dumb for it, to tell you the truth. It's just that's idiocy to me. I don't understand why you would let a player of that caliber go. You got to pay players that are great to stay on your team, like Jack said. And the Dodgers do that all the time. And Dodgers have won 2 World Series. The New York Yankees are another team that's not willing to, they don't care. They're spending money on the players that can bring them in there and it's going to help them win the World Series. That's the reason why the Yankees are so successful. They do that kind of stuff. I don't understand why I understand there's small markets and stuff like that. It really doesn't. it does not have to do directly with small marketing, because if you have a multi-billionaire that owns a team, money shouldn't be an object. There's no caps.
Well, the problem with small markets, though, it's it's bigger than that. It's the larger your market is, the more success you're likely to have with recouping with like merchandising and different things like that. So and ticket pricing and everything. It's just, everything is just, it's better to have a larger market than it is a smaller market, but you can still be successful. I agree. You can still be successful in the smaller market, right?
But
exactly.
You got to win, though. You got to win, though.
Well, now, part of it, Brian, too, as some of the small market teams, the ownership, their main source of income is the team. They don't have these outside business interests where all this extra revenue is coming in. Like I mentioned, Steve Cohen on the Mets, he was worth something like about $14 billion when he bought the team. He's worth like $23 billion now. So if you're Steve Cohen, you could think, okay, I'm willing to lose up to $3 billion because I'll still have $20 billion, more than enough to live on and enjoy my life. And I'm a big Mets fan. $3 billion to play around with. We're going to go wild and sign all these free agents at outrageous money. But part of it, too, they're the fellow owners. You don't want to kind of antagonize them by being out there all alone and making these signings. But the Dodgers, in their case, they have all this extra money, the owner claimed, from these Ohtani sales. There's jerseys, there's this, there's that. So all that extra revenue is going to getting in another super player in Kyle Tucker. It's hard to compete with that.
Yeah.
And
that's another thing. Ohtani's an international player too. So again, like you mentioned, the revenue. So it's definitely going to make the money a lot more lucrative for them in that regard.
And you would think that a lot of teams would, smaller market teams would recognize like international players in general, because that does give you more money. If you get an international player, he could be maybe above average player that's consistent on your team, and wherever he comes from is going to generate that money too, because hey, that's our guy, blah blah blah, and then it'll be on your team, and he's going to do all this, and you might get to a playoff game, 2 or 3 playoff games, might even get to a World Series, and then what? It blows up. It is about winning at the end of the day. And again, like I've referred to the NFL before, there are GMs and managers and owners that try to win, and there's some that just say, you know what, I'm just going to make my money with this team because it's an investment. So it works either way. I don't have a problem with the amount of money the Dodgers are willing to spend, just like I don't have a problem with the Yankees. So,
well, the Yankees haven't been spending the big money. That was in the past. They've been spending when they have to. But don't use the Yankees as an example. They're not going crazy and spending.
Not anymore.
Drunken sailors here. Also, I like the element of super teams. The Dodgers are a super team. They're like an attraction, like the Bulls were with Jordan, the Chiefs with Mahomes and Kelsey. I like that element in sports. I'm never against it. Showtime with the Lakers. I think we need that. Complete parity isn't actually good for the league, for the leagues. Believe it or not.
I agree. Super teams are great because it's good for business in the sense that they become villains. So you got people not only love this team, but you got people that love to hate this team. Either way, everybody's paying to see either this team win or see this team lose. So especially like this prime example, Golden State, when Kevin Durant joined them. Oh man, come on! Everybody wanted to see that team lose.
Yeah, everyone wants to see them play. They become an attraction. I think it's good for the particular sport. Not good if you're a fan of another team trying to win. But let's beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers, they won the last 2 World Series, but they could have been beaten in those series. When they beat the Yankees 4-1, the Yankees blew a game with 2 outs in the last inning. 1 more out, they win that game. And then in another game, they made 3 miscues in 1 inning. Had they made just 2 miscues and not 3, they would have won that game. They would have went back to LA up 3-2. People forget that, and they barely beat Toronto, the Dodgers, by like
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
You still got to,
they did.
the game's still got to be played. This is true. And, we can always do the David and Goliath thing for a lot of these teams, like the 2004 Pistons. I mean, they beat the Lakers, who were an all-star team, and they were a bunch of nobodies, really. So if you think about that, it makes for good. It makes for good ratings. It makes for good TV. And then people will sit here and complain about, oh, my team, and we can't beat them because they're doing this. I said, well, stop whining. Stop being petty. Go out there and win. You can beat these teams. You don't need all that payroll. That's the other part of it. So that's why I don't care if any of these teams spend that money, because they're just trying to do what everybody else is trying to do, win a game. So anyway, on that note, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this debate show. It's been great debates. Join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. for the Big Football Show, which is going to be truncated next week to about an hour. We're going to go back to the All Sports program. And then, of course, Stream of Consciousness at 9 a.m. with Keith Engel. And we'll see you then. Everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.